Tell me where the freaks at. Tell me where the freaks at.
I love that song. That's awesome.
I like that.
Yeah, and all the cool little thumbnails you've done over the past. That's really cool.
So I'll keep adding thumbnails to it as we go along, of course.
Is it going to get longer or are you just going to change them?
I'll just change them up a little bit. I have other songs to go with it too.
Nice. I like that one though.
Yeah, I like that one too.
That one's really cool. Is that a revenue friendly song?
I will answer that after the stream.
Oh, okay.
Welcome in, everybody. I meant to tell you that part of it before the stream started.
That's okay.
Happy Tuesday.
I thought the word you were looking for was Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween.
There you
it's
go.
That day too. Yeah. I went out after work and I asked Mom, I was like, so how much candy have we given away? And she's like, oh, I gave it all away. You're going to have to go back and buy more tomorrow. And I looked over, the bowl's still full. It hadn't been touched. Nobody's come. So,
I'm still trying to figure out. I live in a gated community. How all the kids got in here. Were the parents throwing them over the gate? Because you can't even get into the gate. Like there's the gate you drive through, and the gate you have to have a code to get into if you're walking. I'm trying to figure out how they all got in.
Well, is it not? Are there not allowed kids inside of the gates?
If they know how to get in with the code,
well, yeah,
you have to have a code to live here to get in.
Right.
But the people were walking outside on the road and getting in through here somehow.
Oh,
I didn't know if they were like climbing or if they were rolling underneath something or they're waiting for cars to pass by and then running in real quick. But the funny thing is they can't get out without a code either. So I don't know.
They were using Phone a Friend.
Apparently.
Kenneth H. Oh, wait. I'm in the wrong chat. Let me switch back over to the other chat.
Thank
you, Kenneth.
I wasn't here most of the night. And then I didn't pass out candy. I've been busy.
We hadn't had anybody come by. That's what we
get
living in the country.
There were a lot of people outside.
Really?
But Kelly's home tonight and he had the light off. And he's like, you don't give a Kenny? He says, no, I'm not in it. And I was like, okay. he was watching TV. But I don't know if he was feeling like getting up every 30 seconds, listening to all the dogs bark. So, yeah, I did get some rest last night. And the funny thing is, I actually slept more on the cruise than I do normally, but it was so exhausting, physically exhausting. And today was was okay. I still went to bed after midnight. I laid there, tried to toss and turn. Feel rejuvenated though. Telling Chris I probably am going to stay up after the stream. Got something fun to do, so we're gonna see.
Doodle says she actually had 2 cute little witches, but that was it.
I mean, I was going to pass out toothbrushes and water, so I want to be known as that guy, so nobody comes here. So
yeah.
I'll sit on the front porch in a ballerina costume and scare them all away.
Well, let's welcome in all the trick-or-treaters.
Oh, I forgot about this. It's been so long. I didn't do this last night.
Welcome in Kenneth H., Janice Stissy, Vicky Gillespie, Nicole, Happy's Haunt, Stacy Rogers, welcome in. Dear Debbie Burnfeld, hello. 100 Acre Wood, welcome. Marion Memphis is here. Now we get to scroll down because everybody was talking. Vicky, Debbie, Jan, Kenneth, and Mar, and where do we pick up? Vicky. There's Corby Sinclair, welcome in, Corby. Kofa Creative Studios, welcome in. And there, as I said, is my snickerdoodle. The one and only. The bride of Frankenstein to my Frankenstein, the wolf girl to my wolf man,
wow. You hear this one playing, it sounds like.
The bride of Dracula to my I don't know. The Ariel to my Eric. Welcome in, Angela Minter. Hello, dear.
Hello, Angela.
I was trying to do something Halloween-y and it just didn't.
Frankenweenie.
That'll, yeah. The Sally to my Jack Skellington. How about that? That one works.
Yeah. I mean, her head falls off and his is replaceable, but okay.
Christine Hickman, welcome in. Debbie Thuner, hello, good to see you. We got Corby. We got Wendy B, welcome in. Jeanette Sebastian the Crab, hello, good to see you. Let's see, we got Debbie, and I'm scrolling again, and Mar, and Stacy. And did I get everybody? It's about to jump. Wendy B, Krista, welcome in, buddy. I'm gonna jump to the other screen. Krista, Katie Y, hello. Bill Steffen, welcome in. Spaceship Ears, good to see you. And I think that's everybody. Howdy.
Oh,
Nathan, welcome in. David Botko, welcome.
Does he howl at her? Nicole said the wolf to your moon, or the wolf to her moon. Do you go, ow?
I always think of the cartoon wolf, the one that his eyes bulge out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yep. Tomorrow is my nasty diet, exercise, life change, all that good stuff. So
yeah,
drinking my last 2 Arnold Palmer Lights, and then it's all this from now on.
Yay, water.
Nicole's been giving me tips on what I should eat, but I think I know what to do. If I don't eat anything for 3 weeks, we should be good.
We could howl. People would probably leave though.
Kelly would probably come see what's going on.
Yeah, there's that too.
Looks like I got a big, like a bump right here, like I got punched in the face or something.
Did that happen in Cozumel too?
And probably it was a rough neighborhood.
Water is very good for you, Steve. It is,
It's questionable.
but it's not as tasty as other things.
No, but I did learn that Kool-Aid is 0 sugar.
Hey, I've got a couple of those myself that I add to my
Well, I got all kinds of flavorings, but Kool-Aid, the Kool-Aid brand, 0 sugar, 0 sodium. There's nothing in this whatsoever. It has 0 calories, 0 fat, 0 cholesterol, 0 sodium, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and 0 protein.
I have a cherry 7-Up one that I do that is zeros like that. And I love
What?
it.
Like one of these?
Yeah.
Where do you get that?
I order it off Amazon.
But that's it. This is not a diet drink. This is Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Hey, Kool-Aid. Oh, you know what? These match my pants. I didn't even think about that. But I don't know. These are very tasty, and I don't know what makes them tasty because there's nothing in it. Anyways.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
But if I grab the other one, which I may have used all of, it's full of bad stuff. But then there's good old Kool-Aid.
Maybe it was the guy's sister in Cozumel.
That was a trap. Stacy, I get these at Walmart. They have grape, fruit punch, and cherry.
Well, that answers that question because she asked, do they have grape or fruit punch?
It does not have aspartame in it. It has citric acid, water, gum arabic. The sweetener, it has potassium citrate. It contains less than 2% artificial flavor. And then way down here at the bottom, one of the sweeteners is sucrose or sucralose. So that's it.
Emily, LSU mom, welcome in.
Actually, that's what Nicole and I talked about tonight. So apparently you can eat a lot of stuff as long as you eat 100% the right stuff. And what's that?
I need to look into that diet.
And something about you gotta watch your cholesterol, but it's like a meat diet. You can eat all the meat you want. But my mom's done it, and she lost a lot of weight, like 40 or 50 pounds.
Really?
And it was great. So yeah, I'm gonna listen. It's time. I dieted, got lost a little bit of weight. We went back on the cruise and gained it all back probably because, well, we ate everything. But I'm going to go. I need to lose. I want to lose weight fast and correctly. So, which means exercise, diet. I took like everything I had in this room that was edible, and I put it in the closet out there for them to eat. So. Except my popcorn. I still have popcorn because I'm debating whether or not I want to give that up completely, but I haven't read. Yeah, that's what I heard. You got to make sure that your cholesterol is good. Well, I can't check my cholesterol right now. I mean, I ate 7 filet mignons and steaks and everything else on that cruise. I got to wait for that to clean out a little bit. Got to give myself a little body cleanse.
Chris and Steve, may I make a suggestion? Do not call it a diet. Diet fails. Just call it a lifestyle.
Diets only fail if you don't stay on them. But the only other time I've done this, it worked very well, and it worked really well. So, but I didn't do keto. I did my own thing and was just very disciplined. So, time to be disciplined again.
Stay away from hydrogenated oils. I'm going to work with my friend as a clinical nutritionist.
It's the Steve diet, Debbie. Look up keto because that's what everybody seems to be doing. You just got to watch your cholesterol, and you need like potassium and something else. I can't remember. I'm not an expert on it. Yeah, I haven't done a lot of.
I want to look into some people at work were talking about the carnivore diet,
which is kind of like keto.
Is it keto?
Well, keto, you
Kinda.
can eat all the meat you want, from what I understand, which is why they say watch your cholesterol. So, again, just ate like 9 steaks in 5 days. Not gonna have my cholesterol checked just yet. I gotta let some of
Yeah.
that go through and fly out. So, but I just need to be more active. And I need to. I need to do it. Let's go. It's time.
KDY says a year ago, I eliminated pop entirely and started reading labels. Nothing above 15% for sugar or sodium on any label of food.
When I was in the first time I actually did this kind of diet, I cut out pop first and did nothing else. My buddy got married on September 10th, and by Christmas I had lost I remember it was like 20 pounds, and I did nothing different, no exercise, nothing else, just cut out soda pop or Coke or whatever part of the country you are that you call it. So that is a huge deal. Now you got to start paying attention to everything if you want to do it right. That's what I did after that, and it worked. So that's what we're gonna do.
Emily says your body will go into ketosis.
Yeah.
You have to supplement with magnesium, potassium, and sodium.
Which is that I eat a lot of bananas when you do this too, because of the potassium thing. You have to have that. So
My potassium runs low.
The only time I'm not gonna say I've never had a soda or pop or Coke or whatever. Most of the time though, if I'm drinking it, it's sugar free. Like
zero sugar.
Zero sugar I quit drinking those a few weeks back too. This is the only thing I've ever had that I've actually had that's not great for me right now, but it's not bad. It's Arnold Palmer Light, but I did notice it's high in added sugars. So it has no fat, no sodium, anything like that, but it's 20% vitamin C of your daily, whatever. But it has 17 grams of added sugars in it.
Get you some of these.
I have lots of vitamins I take. Except mine say female vitamins on them. Is that what I thought you were supposed to take those if you wanted to?
That'll help your hair in your chesticle area.
My skin glow. That's why they're getting so big.
That's why you had to go up to a C cup.
Whatever. Well, do we need to measure again? I'm not at a C cup. I was like at an A.
I thought you were at a B.
Or maybe it was either a double A or a B or something. But that's I could use some lift and support.
Save the chesticles.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yep. We got a book. To
Let's do it because it's a long one tonight.
It's a long one. Nicole.
Not yet. Give it a minute.
Oh man. All right.
Or was I? And I changed shirts. Just
so last week we left off. Aladdin and Jasmine had met with Morgiana and Dubin.
And the Sultan died.
The Sultan was dead.
And Razul died.
Razul's dead.
And the genie died.
And Carpet is trapped.
Snip. Carpet got the snip.
He had some alterations done. And Raja is also being held. But they formed up a little army. And they attacked a caravan and stole some books.
That's correct. Was that the very end of the chapter?
Yes.
That's right. I remember that, but we never found out what that was.
No, it was just some old books that were locked away in a heavily guarded chest,
which we assume are sorcerer books from around the world.
Yes. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Emily. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for hanging out.
And I will. I'll let you know. I'll do my research and let you know. Let everybody know the progress.
So, yeah. So they just held up the caravan, and they had snuck away And Genie had turned around and looked at Aladdin, and Aladdin was like, he in another situation, he could have been a good friend.
Yep.
So he kind of felt sorry for the Genie. So,
True space spirits. All right, let's go for this. Let's get this underway.
all right. So we're picking up chapter 14, Robber Queen.
Last one, and then I'm done.
There you go.
We're 46% through the book. You know that, right?
We are. We'll be more percent when I get through reading this long chapter.
Yep. It's you know, it says at this speed 28 minutes. So we'll see how long it takes you.
Yep.
So it's 10:37.
Windy B says, I'm going to talk in class because I'm not following along. Comment on my report card like all my teachers did.
No worries.
Mike 88 NYC. Welcome in, buddy. All right, here we go. Aladdin allowed himself a few moments of being alone and relaxing a little. He practiced mincing down the street the way he imagined girls did, robes curling about his feet. Abu chittered happily, sensing the change in his friend's mood. You make a pretty believable girl, someone drawled from the corner. Morgiana stood there, arms crossed, watching his antics with a raised eyebrow. She had taken off her disguise and now wore her usual pants and top outfit. So do you, Aladdin quipped without missing a beat. Idiot, Morgiana growled, walking over to help him out of his costume. I mean, not as believable as that other girl. She was amazing. Where did you find her? Her name is Parisia, and she is one of the most skilled thieves in our little band. Also, shut up, Morgiana said pleasantly. A man who has the attentions of an attractive royal princess should probably keep his eyes to himself. I'm just kidding, Morgiana. I really only have eyes for Jasmine, he said seriously. Then, no offense. None was ever taken. You're too skinny for my liking anyway. Put some meat on your bones and then we'll talk. They walked down the street as casually as two thieves could, shoulders occasionally bumping like they didn't care, eyes searching out quick exits just in case. We've missed you, you know, Morgiana said eventually. I missed you too, Aladdin admitted. I just wish, yes, we weren't professional thieves. Mr. High and Mighty, Morgiana said, rolling her eyes. We just do what we do, what you do, and refine the process a bit. Neither one of us has the moral high ground, Aladdin. The law treats all kinds of thieves equally, all kind of theft equally. I never cared about the law, Aladdin said. Only what my heart tells me. Morgiana shook her head. It's very easy to steal only what you need to eat and live when you are a strong young man. The starving 3-year-olds and dying grandmothers cannot steal to eat. So we steal extra and yes, coins and jewelry. Don't tell me all of those trinkets in your cave are just for your destitute charity cases, Aladdin said, but with a twinkle in his eye. I'm not denying that I have bigger plans and a penchant for moving shiny objects, Morgiana said with a shrug. I'm just saying that we aren't as purely evil as you think us, Aladdin. There are shades of gray and goodness to us all as well. I never thought you were evil, Morgiana, just that you made bad choices. She laughed. Now you sound like my mother when she was clear-headed. Aladdin smiled. Was it possible to be friends with someone you didn't agree with? They turned a corner, and with thieves' instincts, both immediately skanked back into the shadows. Shrank back into the shadows. There was a tent set up ahead in the wide street. It was squat and square, black and red, Jafar's colors again. The angular, evil-looking symbol from the coin was painted on its side and flew one on the pennant at the top. A long line of people, hot and desperate looking, snaked away from the tent and down the street. What's this? Aladdin asked uneasily. Something new, Morgiana said, also worried. Let's investigate. Realizing that they looked like nothing more than a young couple strolling down the street, they came out of the shadows and linked arms. With the casualness of two experts casing the joint, they let their lazy eyes slip over everything and everyone. What's going on here, friend? Aladdin asked a father standing in the queue, hands on the shoulders of his two children. We haven't heard, the man asked, his eyes darting around nervously as he tightened his grip on his daughters. They're giving out bread. Better get in line fast. I thought Jafar just gave it away, like everywhere. Like tossed it to the crowds at parades and off the balcony at the palace and stuff. Not anymore. Jafar said too many of the wrong sort of people are preying on the generosity. The man said in the last part slowly and clearly and a little louder than the rest, so that anyone listening would be sure to hear. Morgiana said. I guess we will get in line. Thank you, friend. The man inclined his head, then turned as if they didn't exist anymore. As the two turned to walk away, Aladdin gestured with his chin at the tent. Morgiana followed his look. A man with a narrow face and narrow eyes sat at a makeshift table within. Two giant guards stood on either side of him. Behind him there was a pile of bread slappily thrown on a sheet on the ground. A young woman in an oft-mended purple robe tried not to stare at it as the man spoke to her. Do you swear your entire allegiance to Jafar and his new government? Agrabah ascendant. Yes, yes, of course, the woman said. She was still staring at the bread. Do you swear to uphold his laws and revere him with the respect and love due to the rightful suzerain of the lands inside the Atrazak Mountains? I do. I mean, what? It's not like I'm marrying him, right? The young woman suddenly said, from the first time looking at the man before her and not the bread. No, you're not marrying him. The smile in the corners of the man's eyes was not a twinkle of amusement. It was a malicious, knowing gleam. Do you swear? Yes, the woman said. Excellent. Next. The woman blinked and then laughed like a girl when one of the guards slapped 2 loaves of bread in her hands. She practically skipped away in delight. I think she would have sworn away her own mother, Morgiana murmured. I don't think she cared what she said and figured it meant nothing, Aladdin said, and it probably doesn't. They wandered slowly down the street, turning off as soon as they could to get away from the bread line. I don't like it, Morgiana said when they were far enough away to feel comfortable. That whole setup was creepy. It felt very weird, Aladdin agreed. I can't put my finger on it, but really, what do words mean? Like you said, the woman would have sworn away her own mother and not meant it. Yes, but what happens when Jafar realizes that? The rest of their walk home was uneventful until they entered the hideout. The moment they were inside, a monster in orange and black with teeth the size of daggers barreled out of the dark into them. Rajah, Aladdin said in surprise. He gave the large cat a scruff through the neck fur. The tiger growled happily. How did you get here? Morgiana shook her head and rolled her eyes. Dubin said he showed up at our doorstep this morning, right after we left. There was a ribbon around his neck, and a note saying that we should be on the lookout for a particular book in Jafar's wagon. Al something or other. It was signed the Genie. Ha! Aladdin nuzzled Raja with his own nose. I like this new way of getting us intel. It's much safer than having him and Jasmine meet. Well, I think we need a lot more tigers, Morgiana said skeptically, but that would make Ahmed and Shirin happy. They've already adopted Raja for themselves, and Maruf does not trust the big cat with his grandkids. Maruf is here? Where? Aladdin asked delightedly. At this hour, probably in the kitchen making breakfast. Of course, I'll join him there. Of course, Morgiana muttered. She wandered away, waving her hands in the air and continuing to talk to herself in exasperation. Genies, tigers, magic books. When did my life come to this? Aladdin took off down several labyrinth passageways and confusingly connected cellars, ending up in a surprisingly spacious and airy kitchen of some large old-fashioned house that had no windows, only skylights. Over a giant stove with an equally giant pan was Maruf, Dubin's elderly father. He was grinning and talking and jumping around a crowd of hungry kids, managing not to spill a drop of oil on his crazy beard or miss a hungry, outstretched hand. It was especially amazing considering his stiff left leg that didn't move. He used it as a pivot, twirling around on his heel. Everyone got a piece of hot bread and, from a giant jar in the corner, a dollop of sweet cheese. Aladdin, Maruf called in the moment he saw him. I'm just reheating your favorite. Nane Sanjak. Made them last night. Here. He spun the pan and a round piece of bread flew through the air. Aladdin snatched it and tossed it to the other hand immediately. It was too hot to eat. Maruf threw his head back and barked out laughter. You never change, Aladdin. Always trying to bite into things that are too dangerous. Me? Aladdin asked, licking his thumb. What about you? When you were my age? Ha, I was just telling them, these kids, they have no idea, Maruf said, shaking his head. When I was their age, even if I was just a few years younger, I'd show them a thing or two about evading the market guards. Two of the children ran forward and leapt into Maruf's legs, clinging despite the danger of the hot oil and fire. Ahmed, Shirin, you're going to kill me, but the old man was grinning. Aladdin looked at the kids. They seemed familiar, but from where? Then he placed them. They were the ones that he had given his bread to just a week or so earlier. Are they? He said slowly. Kazira's kids, my grandchildren, Maruf said proudly. Aladdin knelt down and tickled each one on the nose. I think we've met, he said. We have a pet lion, the little boy Ahmed told him. Tiger, Ahmed. He has stripes, Shirin corrected gently. And we've been taking care of Abu for you. That's great. The poor thing could use a little extra love, Aladdin said, popping the now cool piece of bread in his mouth. Or speaking of, does anyone know where Jasmine is? Maruf looked at him slyly. Yes, she's in the study. I'm sure you're eager to discuss important business with her. Aladdin pretended he didn't hear the implication in the older man's tone and gave him a little bow and thanks, hands pressed together. He backed out of the room and returned the way he had come, into the twisty maze of storage spaces and secret tunnels the street rats had carved underneath the abandoned neighborhood. The study was a large room with a plain rectangular carpet rug spread out in the middle. Drawn on the rug in chalk was a sketch map of Agrabah Small bricks and square blocks of stone highlighted important buildings and landmarks. Around it stood an attentive group of street rats. Jasmine was on her hands and knees, pushing around little piles of pebbles that represented the thieves and beggar children who made up her troops. She carefully explained the plan to her audience and then had them repeat it word for word before they skittered off to do her bidding. Soon they were all gone, and Aladdin sat down beside her. "Hey, what's that?" he asked, suddenly noticing several chalk marks on the wall. He initially thought they were random, but then realized that there were 4 elongated triangles, like claw marks from a giant beast. "The mark of Raja," Jasmine said, not looking up. She continued to ponder her map, one finger to her mouth. "Some of the street rats thought that if Jafar has a symbol, we should have one too. It's supposed to mean resistance. Also, because Raja resisted Jafar himself and was wounded, it's to honor him." "Oh, clever," Aladdin said. Yes, but listen," she said impatiently. Little tendrils of hair waved unkempt around her head like a wreath, and Aladdin had a hard time concentrating on her words. In the genie's notes, he said that Jafar is looking for one book in particular that deals with magic of the dead and the undead. If it's not in this shipment, it may be in one coming from Kajah by the sea. They are expected to return tonight, but we don't know if they will stop off at Midrahif for supplies first. So the street rats are going to disrupt caravan arrivals at both the southern gate and the western gate as a distraction. What's the book? Al Azif by Abdul Azrad. I hope I'm doing okay on these words. Although they were in underground passages where no winds blew, Aladdin found himself shuddering in sudden cold. Jasmine didn't look particularly pleased to say the title aloud. There was just something about it. Maybe it's one of those books we just lifted. They definitely looked serious. "Yes, let's go take a look at them," Jasmine said, getting up and stretching. "It will be a welcome break from playing Robber Queen. I don't mean that meanly. This whole thing would be utterly impossible without Dubin and Morgiana and the street rats." Aladdin was silent, thinking about his discussion outside with his old friend, about layers of complexity and good and evil and choices. If Morgiana hadn't gone down the path he didn't approve of, she wouldn't be able to help him now. Where did that fit in the great moral scheme of things? "You guys took a long time to get back," Jasmine said, poking him in the stomach. It was as if she could read his thoughts. "You and Morgiana." "We were catching up." "Jealous?" "Only because she's known you for so long," Jasmine said with a smile, giving his hand a squeeze. "We saw something," Aladdin said reluctantly, not wanting to break the mood. "Jafar is now having people line up for bread and swearing allegiance or loyalty or whatever to get it. He's not just handing it out anymore. Things are taking an unsettling turn." "What? And the whole wanting to create an army of the undead thing isn't unsettling?" "No, that's horrific. But it's so horrific, it's like it's unreal. But these were normal, desperate people suddenly afraid the free food they had just gotten used to was being taken away. I can't speak to genies and ghouls and ancient books of magic, but I don't like what Jafar is turning the people of Agrabah into. He killed my father in front of me, in front of the people of Agrabah," Jasmine reminded him with gritted teeth. There is nothing he is incapable of. They came into the main room of the headquarters, the one with the tables and braziers. A guard stood next to the chest of pilfered items. The girl in blue from the heist. Now she wore trousers and a long dagger slung on either hip. Thank you, Parisa, Jasmine said with a warm smile. We'll take it from here. You deserve a break after everything you've done today already. Of course, Jasmine, the girl said with a bow before she left. Aladdin opened the chest and carefully took out a musty leather-bound books. They were still a relatively novel concept for him. He was more used to scrolls or notes written on shards of dried clay. There's an imam from the old quarter named Khosrau, very learned, who said he would help us with any translations as soon as he could slip away, Jasmine said. They sat down at the low table near, now clear of food except for a pitcher of mint tea and a plate of flatbread. They put the stack of books between them and each chose one. Aladdin opened his, a treatise on the limits of magic, then quickly traded out the giant text only volume for Spellbreaker, a compendium which had pictures and recipes for charms. After a few minutes, Jasmine put hers down in disappointment. I don't think any of these are Al-Azif. I can't be sure but about these two because of the languages. That looks like cuneiform, which is just mad, and that's heretic Egyptian, which I definitely cannot read. But they seem to be about much lighter subjects. If the illustrations mean anything, we need that imam. But on the other hand, do you want to protect your sheep against hoof fungus? Aladdin asked brightly. He turned the book so that she could see the ancient, brightly illuminated picture and recipe that he'd been looking at. Because if you do, I have got a charm for you. Jasmine smiled. I wonder if it works. Aladdin put his book aside. So what is this Al-Azif all about anyway? I guess it's a record of some ancient madman's travels to forbidden and dark worlds. He wrote down the knowledge he gained there about channeling powers from beyond the universe itself. Somehow the very act of recording it became the conduit of that power. Aladdin blinked at her. Just possessing it lets you kill with your mind and raise armies of the undead. Jasmine re-explained, rolling her eyes. Ah, I get it now. Bad stuff. So what do we do when we get it? Aladdin asked, putting his book down. Burn it or something? Burn it? Aladdin said in shock. A tomb of that importance? No, we can't do that. We have to keep it for ourselves. What? Aladdin said slowly. Just think. In it lies the power to break the laws of magic. What else can it do? Nothing. Nothing good, Aladdin said firmly. It could give me the power I need to defeat Jafar and take back the throne. We're working on that here, Aladdin said gently, reaching out to touch her knee. With people who believe in you and your cause, with children and thieves and beggars and tigers and genies. We can do it without any extra magic. Jasmine looked doubtful. More strength, more weapons couldn't hurt. Oh, yes, they could. When the weapons are evil, and just because the book's in our hands doesn't mean that it couldn't wind up in someone else's hands. We need to burn it. That keeps it from ever being used for ill purposes. That's a dumb reason to destroy it because it might do damage someday. When we could use the magic to fix everything, Jasmine yelled. You know who believed magic could fix everything? Aladdin yelled back. My mother, all of those stories about Mirads and Jinn and Oris and whatever granting wishes and fixing all of your problems with the snap of your fingers, every single one ended happily ever after. Just like she believed my dad was going off to find some magical thing or job or whatever that would save our family. Magic doesn't do that. Nothing does. And you're as crazy as your mother if you think otherwise. I could bring back my father with it, Jasmine said quietly in a small voice. She wasn't looking at Aladdin or the books anymore. She was staring off into space with eyes that were suddenly wet. Aladdin immediately felt his anger melt away like the sandcastle in the desert wind. She looked so tiny sitting there, not a robber queen or a sultana at all. He scooted over next to her and wrapped her in his arms. Hey, he said quietly, kissing her on the cheek. I know you miss him. I miss my mom too, despite all the things I just said. But you can't bring your father back. He wouldn't be the same. He wouldn't want it. You don't know that, Jasmine said, sniffling. Are you willing to find out the hard way? He's gone, Jasmine. Let him go. Jasmine held Aladdin tightly for a moment, squeezing him harder than he had thought possible for a girl her size. Then she sat back and tried to compose herself, wiping her nose. This is all because of my father in some ways, isn't it? She said finally. If he hadn't brought Agrabah to the place where it is now, with a huge population of incredibly poor people and an even huger disparity between them and the wealthy nobles like us, there wouldn't have been an opening for someone like Jafar. No one would have supported him if the Sultan had done right by his people. Aladdin really, really wanted to tell her it wasn't true, but he couldn't. She saw the pitying look on his face and smiled warmly. I've learned a lot of hard truths about him and my whole family, my whole world lately. I think maybe in the back of my mind, I always knew. In the history books I read, great rulers didn't spend all of their time playing with children's toys, and they didn't let their advisors handle everything. They kept an eye on the people and a hand in the day to day running. The great ones, that is, even military leaders like Xerxes. They didn't just let ordinary people go hungry for no reason. Ordinary people like you. Aladdin guessed what was coming next. He focused on a piece of flatbread, carefully breaking it in half. What happened with your family? With your mother? She asked hesitantly. What made you turn to a life of thievery? Aladdin sighed and put the bread back down on his plate. His usual glibness drained away under her scrutiny. Actually, a lot of his joking and irrepressible monkeying around disappeared in the past 2 weeks. He wasn't sure if he missed it or not. My father, Kazim, left us when I was very young. I barely remember him. Aladdin hadn't mentioned his father's name aloud in years. He half hoped that he wouldn't be able to remember it, but it rose perfectly formed from the depths of his mind, immediate and whole, just waiting to be brought to the surface again with all of its accompanying pain. Imagine someone just like me, he continued. Imagine an independent, roguishly handsome young man, quick with a laugh and a joke, slow to find honest work. Imagine a me with no thought for any other person, no thought beyond the moment's fun, but with two people to be responsible for. When it got too much, he just left. And my mom, she was a great mom, he said forcefully, looking into Jasmine's eyes. She could make soup out of dust and a drop of water. She could make clothing, decent clothing, from scraps. She begged for from people only slightly less poor. than us. She kept our nasty little house spotlessly clean and as cheery as she could. She sounds like an amazing person, Jasmine said gently. Yes, but Aladdin sighed again, his defensiveness gone. Like I said, she was completely deluded, insane and irresponsible in her own way. Another woman would have had people hunt her wayward husband down and bring him back. Another woman would have had him declared dead and found herself another husband, a better man. But she truly believed until the day she died that Kazim would come back, that one day he would return and whisk us away to a fabulous new life with a nicer house and servants, and he would stay at home and be the father and husband our family needed. He looked up at Jasmine. She had the look of such compassion and sadness, Aladdin had the urge to reach over and comfort her. She died young, of course, Aladdin finished. There was no other way to put it, no nice way. She was overworked and came down with a wasting disease. It was one of the other things that drove me apart from Morgiana and Dubin and everyone. Street rats take care of each other, my mother always said, but no one took care of us. Maroof tried to help out a little, but by the point his leg was no longer worked and he was scraping for food himself. And my friends were too busy putting together their little network of thieves and beggars to spend much time helping me or comforting my mother. Well, I guess that's not fair, he said, breaking his piece of bread into smaller pieces. Everyone's got something, like they say. Everyone had someone starving, sick, or dying. Morgiana's parents would spend any money they got on wine. Dubin's dad was lame, and his older sister was married to a man who beat her. Good God, Jasmine murmured. I had no idea. Yeah, it's all bad. It's the quarter of the street rats, remember? Anyway, from the day my mother died, I decided I would never rely on anyone else for food or shelter or to fulfill my dreams for me, and that someday I would be rich and live in that palace, and all of my troubles would be over. You dreamed of living in the palace? Jasmine asked with a curious smile. Our house had a view of it out the back, Aladdin said with a weak grin. I used to gaze at it and dream. It looked like paradise, golden and white in the sunlight, stark and imposing on in a dust storm, lit up by the thousand lamps in the middle of the night. And then when I moved out after my mom died, I chose my hideout because it had a similar view. And all those years, Jasmine mused, I languished in my beautiful gardens and looked out the windows at night at Agrabah laid out below me and wished I could be there. I wonder if our thoughts ever crossed like stray breezes or like a pair of swallows. Aladdin made his fingers dance around each other in the air. But wealth isn't a magic lamp that suddenly erases all your problems, Jasmine said slowly, breaking off a piece of bread for herself. Imagine being a large bird in a tiny but golden cage. If it weren't for the death of my father, I'd be happier now than I've ever been. I'm free here. Having the freedom to choose is better than having everything you want. You'd better convince the people of Agrabah that, Aladdin said wryly. Otherwise, they'll never back you. So far, they seem to prefer full bellies and no choice. When I am Sultana, they shall have both, Jasmine vowed. I will figure out how to feed the people and keep them free. They shall go to school, all of the children, no matter what religion, no matter what class, boys and girls. They shall be given every opportunity to do whatever they wish when they grow up and not be forced to thieve and beg. This I swear. Her eyes were distant, looking at some future sight, a world of her own building. Aladdin had no doubt that she would achieve that vision or die trying. She made him believe that it was actually possible, that a kind of paradise on earth could be possible. And he was willing to do whatever it took to help her with that dream. I believe you, he whispered. I believe in you. He never would have dared kiss the royal Princess Jasmine, but it turned out he didn't need to. The royal Princess Jasmine leaned over and kissed him. Her skin was warm and smelled of sand and mint. Aladdin melted into the kiss like his whole body had been waiting for it, and he didn't even know it himself. She put her hands around his neck and drew him in close. One of her hands worked up into his hair and the other onto his shoulder with a need he didn't realize she felt. So I guess we're done fighting, Aladdin whispered. The royal Princess Jasmine tweaked him on the nose.
It was a long chapter.
So,
Deadly magic. Morning, folks. Dubin yawned, stepping into the room with slapping feet and big, heavy steps. He had a large brass ebrick of steaming hot coffee and several tiny, delicate-looking cups. Despite this, he fell like a donkey onto a floor pillow. Not a drop spilled. Blearily, he set out the cups and poured. Wait, it's night, isn't it? Jasmine asked, looking up from the book she was reading. It's so dark in here, you lose track of time. Dusk is morning to those who work in the shadows, Dubin said, expertly pouring despite his narrowed eyes. Sorry, oh great robber queen and sultana-to-be. I didn't ask how you like yours. I made it with lots of sugar, the way Dad taught me. I would drink the dregs at the bottom of an army canteen right now, Jasmine said, delicately picking up her cup, and I'm sure yours is much better. Jasmine, two chaotic bundles of rags came rushing into the room and threw themselves onto the princess's lap. She laughed and put an arm around each. Shireen, Ahmed, Maruf chastised, coming in slowly behind them with the particular tap slide gait his bad leg gave him. Do not treat the royal princess like your personal auntie. Aladdin cocked his head and looked at Ahmed, who had a boo sitting on his shoulder just as naturally as you please, sort of like a miniature Aladdin. It's all right, Maruf, Jasmine said, giving them a squeeze. I never got to play with children at the palace. Even distant relatives were told to keep their distance. Shireen looked up at Jasmine with huge, adoring eyes. Then she found Jasmine's little silver dagger and played with it wistfully, singing a song that sounded suspiciously like the anthem they played in Jafar's crazy parade. They seem pretty happy, Dubin said, indicating the children with his cup. Happier than they've been in a long time, Maruf said bleakly. Your sister hated thievery. She swore that neither she nor the children would ever have anything to do with it, Aladdin remarked. And here they are, in the very belly of the beast. Well, if she were still around, maybe she'd have a say in the matter, Dubin growled. Excuse me. I meant no disrespect, Aladdin said, holding up his hand. Very few things could get the normally rock-solid Dubin riled. The fate of his sister was one of those things, however. I just meant they seem to be thriving here. Well, Maruf said brightly, what could be better than having a royal princess, a tiger, a monkey, other children to play with? Oh, yes, and food. Almost forgot that. Having food in their bellies seems to be important to these little ones. He held out his arms, and Ahmed and the monkey leapt into them happily. Shireen didn't seem like she was going to budge, however. One arm was locked firmly around Jasmine's waist, and she was making the dagger march behind one of the golden clips taken out of Jasmine's braid. She doesn't have any dolls, Maruf explained in embarrassment. I should steal her a toy, or... Where did all the people in the parade go? Shireen suddenly asked. All of those dancers and animals and soldiers, where did they go when the parade was done? Jasmine said. She looked to Aladdin for help. He shrugged helplessly. Ahmed and I wanted to see the animals when it was over, but we couldn't find their cages or pens like when they were traveling shows come to the city. Are they like the peacekeeping patrols? Are they the same people in different costumes? I think the genie summons them, all of them, Jasmine said. But where do they go after? Shireen pressed. Those are really good questions, Aladdin said quickly, squatting down and tweaking the little girl in the nose. Maybe Jasmine can ask the genie the next time she sees him. Oh, I hope I get to see him someday, Ahmed murmured wistfully. Me too, his sister said. I want to wish for my own tiger, one I can ride, also my own silver dagger. Or a doll, Maroof said hopefully. Or she can have a dagger, a tiny one. I hope you get to meet him too, Jasmine said with a feeling, when this is all over. Aladdin smiled and finished with the entire contents of his cup of coffee in one gulp. Then he leapt up. Think I'm going to go see if I can round us up some more recruits. Back at one of those bread lines. I'll bet there are some people there who aren't down with the whole thing and will want to see an exiled princess reclaim her rightful throne. Be careful, Shireen warned in a very serious tone. I'm always careful, Aladdin said sweetly, prompting a snorting laugh from Jasmine. It was delightful to hear. He resolved to try to make her laugh more often. My neck hairs all stood up on their own today, Dubin said doubtfully. And Shireen said she saw a white cat earlier in the alley by the Egyptian's tea house. Didn't you, Shireen? You're as bad as an old mother, Aladdin groaned. You and your superstitions. Later, princess. He leaned over and gave Jasmine a quick kiss on the lips. As Aladdin swung up and out the secret door behind the chimney upstairs, he heard Dubin say to Jasmine, right in front of the kids, really? What kind of place do you think we're running here? Well, aren't you glad you don't have Aladdin for a competition with Morgiana? Morgiana, he can have her. I'd rather marry a cantankerous she-goat with 5 horns. Be less hard to deal with. Aladdin smiled. That's an odd picture.
It is.
Aladdin smiled to himself as he slipped into the blue twilight of the early dusk. From naive, lonely princess to winner of hearts and minds in less than a month, Jasmine managed to make people feel at ease with her while still maintaining her role as leader. Abu caught up to him when he was less than a block away, and it almost seemed like old times, scurrying up trellises, bounding lightly across rooftops, sliding down conveniently placed poles. But Agrabah was different. The giant red sun was half sunken into the horizon of the western desert and looked like it was swimming in a lake of blood. Those few people still out on the streets were rushing to get home or inside as quickly as possible. They were silent and glanced nervously over their shoulders in fear of something they hoped would never come. From his high vantage point, Aladdin could see 3 separate peacekeeping patrols spreading out from the direction of the palace. They moved like strange bugs, clicking in perfect unison, shields behind them like the carapaces of beetles. He thought about Shireen's questions. She, too, had picked up the weird similarity between the patrols and the people in the parade. Curious, he picked one patrol to follow. By now, everyone in the city was so terrified of them that they had little to do but march down the apocalyptically empty streets. The tap-tapping of their metal boots was an effective warning that preceded them. They walked, black eyes straight forward, manic grins on their faces as if they really, really loved their jobs. If there was a strange noise or something moving in the shadows, they reacted in almost human fashion, raising their weapons, dropping into fighting positions, sending 1 or 2 of their number down an alley to check it out, with no words. Not a single sound was uttered the entire time he followed them. They nodded to one another, but that was all. How were they communicating? It made Aladdin shiver just to think about it. When the waning half moon reached the peak of its ascent, the clock began to chime the hour. The patrol paused. Their identical faces began to appear a little unfocused. They didn't look away, but seemed somehow no longer to be paying attention to whatever was in front of them. With horror, Aladdin realized their faces were really becoming unfocused. Their eyes, noses, and mouths were blurring, twisting, and smudging like dirty clothes being wrung out in the stream. Soon their features were vague thumbprints of tan and black. Then their bodies grew puffy. They seemed to suddenly hang at the tips of their toes and sway for a moment in the breeze. And then they popped, silently, like everything the patrols did, except for the tap-tapping of their feet. Threads of hazy human color spun out for a moment from the quiet explosions, one after another, 6 of them in all. These wavered and dried up in the air, disappearing with a final tiny circuit of blue smoke. Aladdin shivered. They were even a little bit human, not even as real as the genie. They were golems, unthinking magical creatures with limited existences that did what they were told until their clocks ran out. He forced himself to think about his task, to find new recruits for the resistance. Anything but the blurry faces that he knew would haunt his nightmares from then on. But as he turned to go, the sound of angry conversation drifted on the wind from several streets away. something Aladdin would have ignored in normal times, but was unusual at this hour under the new curfew. He leapt quietly to the next roof and then dove down to the convenient balcony. From there, he swung a clothesline and landed silently on an awning across the way. There he hid behind a pair of dangling harem pants and watched. It was the Square of the Sailor, so named for the ships carved into the corners of the civic buildings that surrounded the square. It was once a popular meeting place for the slightly less destitute of the ghetto. There was even a tea house in one corner with rickety chairs and threadbare rugs and watered-down tea. And now it had Jafar and 6 of elite human palace guards, along with a small gathering crowd. A silver tray of tea and wine and cakes, obviously not from the tea house, was hovering in the air before the sorcerer. He wore a grin that would look false to the blindest, most foolish of observers. Aladdin was neither. He leaned in close. He hadn't gotten a good look at Jafar since the parade. The Sultan rarely went into public anymore. The light of insanity glowed strongly in his eyes. What was worth risking his precious self and spending time out among the common people? All I am asking for, Jafar was saying with the soothing patience of a mother, is the location of Princess Jasmine. Just tell me where she is, and you will never go hungry again. You will sup on meat and delicacies and wine. Not this gopi, your friend here, serves you every night. The crowd of skinny and shabbily dressed people shuffled uneasily. Some contents take their eyes off the silver trays of treats. Some seemed uneasy, glancing back and forth from the guards to Jafar's face. Some waited to see what others would do first. A few quietly drew back into the shadows, trying to disappear from what looked like a very bad situation. Aladdin made careful note of those faces. They would be useful to find later. Who cares about the Sultan's old filly? One man called out. You can have anyone you want. My daughter is twice as pretty as Jasmine, and she won't hide from you, I swear. Perhaps he was trying to gain favor with the mad sorcerer. It was a bad idea. Anger burned in Jafar's eyes, instant and complete. I don't particularly care for your opinion of my business, Jafar said with the careful enunciation of someone who really didn't care, who could take as long as he wanted with a group of ants before inevitably deciding to grind them into the dust under his heel. Nor have I any interest in your daughter. Now I ask again, do any of you know the location of the princess? The tray of treats waggled suggestively in the air. Aladdin could smell the intoxicating aroma of dates and honey cake, even up where he was. He wondered if it was more magic. No one stepped forward. Let me put it another way, Jafar said calmly. The silver tray clattered to the ground, treats rolling in the dust. You there. He pointed at someone with his ebon cobra-headed staff. The man, short and bony, looked left to right quickly to see if anyone else was meant. Without a word, 2 of the black and red clad palace guards approached him on either side and grabbed his arms, wrenching him behind his back. Unsure what was going to happen to him, the man began straining against them. Tell me, Jafar said. His eyes glowed red, and so did the jeweled eyes of the cobra on his staff. The poor man seemed frozen like a mouse or small bird, hypnotized by the glow. His body still struggled as if he had forgotten to tell it to stop, but his face and head were completely still. Where is Princess Jasmine? In the palace, the man asked in a daze. Jafar's face broke from sorcerous concentration to crumble into annoyance. If she was in the palace, why would I be looking for her here? Why would I be looking for her? It's a very big palace, the man answered. Aladdin tried not to laugh aloud. The poor guy was answering as honestly as he could under the spell. The problem was he wasn't a very smart man and didn't know anything. With a sigh of frustration, Jafar jerked his staff. The red glow faded. The man turned to look at his friends for help, but now it was like his body was frozen and only his neck and head could move. The man's face went white as panic began to set in. His head continued to turn. Muscles stood out in his neck, sinews and tendons straining against his flesh. Jafar kept looking at the man dispassionately. Only the tip of his finger moved, making the tiniest of circles. The man's head kept slowly turning. He screamed as his muscles began to tear and bones began to crunch, vertebrae grinding against each other in ways they weren't supposed to. People in the crowd watched in horror. Maybe they tried to look away but couldn't. The man's scream suddenly cut off in a wet gurgle. His head kept going as the skin ripped and blood gushed out. With a final snap, the head was all the way around, and the man's blank eyes looking at the crowd. His body remained standing for several horrifying seconds before collapsing to the ground. Aladdin turned away, feeling sick. Next, Jafar said with an indulgent smile. A plague on you, you murderous scum, one man in the crowd shouted, terrified and enraged at the same time. Jafar just rolled his eyes. Next, he repeated tiredly. The sorcerer had finally gone from being an almost humorous villain to a madman of truly demonic proportions. Aladdin had to take a moment to collect himself before heading back into the night. That was descriptive.
That was
Yeah. Okay, so the next one's very short. We're going to read it too. Tea with the Genie. Jasmine was, of course, not in the palace. Ironically, however, she was just barely on the other side of its walls in the fashionable ritzy district that was now silent with fear. She had often dreamed of going to a tea house to play chess or argue esoteric scholarly points with students and feisty old men and women. It was a dream forbidden to a royal princess, of course, and now that she was finally in one, she was alone. Giant urns, empty of tea, made strange and monstrous shapes in the half-light. A telltale wisp of the blue smoke curled up from behind the bar. Soon the rest of the genie appeared with a tray full of glasses and dishes on his arm, a tea towel over his wrist. Coffee? Tea? Who got the Egyptian wine? Little early in the evening for that, don't you think? Have some Falernian instead. He glided over next to Jasmine. The tray and the towel of his little joke disappeared but 2 cups remained. He offered one to her. It was a pretty glass thing with gold curlicues on its sides, hot tea within. She looked at it curiously, feeling the warmth in her hand. It's not poisoned, the genie said archly. Jafar is not that subtle, trust me. If he knew we were meeting, you would already be strung up and saying, I do against your will. No, I was just wondering, she frowned. If you can make food and drink out of thin air, why hasn't Jafar been doing just that? He was tossing bread to everyone at the parades, but that seems to have stopped. Now it's being rationed. He's only handing it out to people who stand in line and swear loyalty. And that whole thing with the inflation of gold has been making it hard for people to obtain food otherwise. Couldn't he or you solve that with the wave of your hand? Aha, smart lady, the genie said, a smile of genuine warmth taking the place of his usual sardonic look. The laws of magic aren't as simple as I may have made it seem. Even the most powerful sorcerers in the world cannot just summon infinite amounts of anything into existence forever. It has to come from somewhere, and gold is far more simple in its own way than bread and meat. All right, but you could do it, couldn't you? You did it before. That's what separates a genie, a jinn, from a sorcerer, right? You're way more powerful. The genie pretended to look embarrassed by the praise, flushing. Why, yes, I could, but Jafar's 2 wishes were fairly explicit. One could assume making him sultan involves the occasional parade and accompanying handouts. It might also come with his own personal disposable army. It does not, however, mean standing next to him and summoning meal after meal for everyone like some cafeteria lady. A what? Nothing, never mind. The point is, if he were very clever and found a historic precedence, perhaps he could get me to do that. But he's not, and I'm not making it easy for him. And on top of that, Jafar doesn't want to give out infinite amounts of free food. But why? It's the bait, the genie mimed, releasing the line of a fishing pole. A pole appeared in his hands, of course, with a giant fish at the end of it that looked a little too much like an average citizen of Agrabah. Everyone grabs the free food and gold and ham, and bam, he's hooked them. He jerked the line, the fish flopped onto the floor. Now he just reels them in or tightens the noose. The genie frowned, contemplating metaphors. Suddenly, the fish person looked like a rabbit person with a noose around its neck. This isn't really working for me, the genie decided with a sigh. All of his props, including the rabbit, vanished. Switching topics to a slightly more evil form of magic, a caravan is arriving from Carcosa 3 nights from now. When the moon is at a perfect quarter, it's got a load of books and other magical bric-a-brac in it. I think this may be the big one, the one with Al-Azif. Why weren't you sent with the caravan this time to defend it? What Jafar is looking for may not be found in, how do I put this, human realms at all. Let's just leave it at this. Jinn don't really travel to Carcosa very well. Matter of fact, no one does. Go easy on the guards when you take them down, the genie said with a shudder. All right, thank you, Jasmine said, toasting him with her tea. She took a sip. It was hot and honeyed, perfectly comforting. And thank you for the returning Raja and telling us about Al Azif and everything else. We owe you so much. The genie shrugged. This is a pretty nasty situation. Just get the bad guy. Maybe set me free. Anyway, it's all good karma. Jasmine tilted her head, looking at him. How are you holding up? She asked gently. Oh, as well as can be expected, he said, waving his hand. Considering I'm like the last of my race, enslaved to an insane, powerful, hungry, evil, did I say evil, dictator with delusions of godhood who won't even make his final insane third wish and let me off the hook from all this. Maybe my next master will be someone nicer, like the sadistic tyrant of a kingdom of vampires or something. What would you do, Jasmine asked curiously, if you were free? I'd travel, the genie answered promptly. I'd get as far away as possible from here and from my memories here. It's too much. Maybe I could come back someday, but there's a lot out there to see first. Snow, for instance. I'd kind of like to see that. I don't know if I could ever leave Agrabah, Jasmine said with a wistful sigh. It's so beautiful and there's so much to do. Well, better here than Roanoke, the genie said, clicking his tongue. No one ever figures out what happened to them. Jasmine thought about the genie's strange mood switches, humorous jokes, and bitter hints at horrible things. Here was a creature who knew more than she would ever know, trapped in a place and time where he didn't want to be. It must be really hard being you, she said, fumbling for the right words to say. Princess, you have no idea, he quipped, quoting Jafar, but with a sad smile. And with that, he dwindled down to a curlicue of blue smoke and evaporated into the night air. The end. No, the end of this chapter. That was interesting.
Oh, wow. That was, yeah. It was.
Ow. But he popped. I mean, it was he turned the man's neck and snapped it till he gurgled in his own blood. What kind of, this is far more dark than anything else we know.
Yeah.
But anyways,
yeah. And we got some sweet romance.
He got a kiss on the cheek or the lips.
Yep. A couple.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that we've got another appearance of the genie there.
Yep. And it kind of ties into something, gives us a little bit more about his demeanor and his attitude and all that.
Mm-hmm. I was worried about the whole Raja thing, that could have been a setup, but it sounds like they have a connection with him now. So, it was great to know Raja was okay. Yeah, I was thinking of you, Stacy.
It was also, we found out that the guards, the faceless guards, are now golems. So, and they're on a limited amount of time, and then they just so.
Yeah, I think we all kind of knew that they weren't real people.
Well, they're Army of the Undead.
Yeah.
I mean, they've kind of mentioned that a little bit, but we're starting to get somewhere with this. We are 56% done with the book. We'll only do 2 chapters next time because they're both decent size.
Okay.
But yes, it's getting descriptive and dark. People are dying, and it paints a whole new ominous picture of what Jafar could have been.
Yeah, this would definitely have been a completely different movie.
So,
but yeah, this I'm loving this book.
Yeah, there's what are they, 15 of these? I can't wait to read all these.
Yeah.
I want them.
I like that it's such familiar characters and situations.
Yes.
But it's almost more of and I know these are meant for like teens, but This is almost more on an adult level than the little animated movies that.
The reading, even the reading is not just the subject matter, but the reading itself is more. It's more like an early 20s than a teen reading level. Now the chapters aren't very long. The book's not that big, so you call it what you want. But this is very dark. There's very large words in this that a lot of people aren't going to know or say or be able to know what they are or anything like that. So I like these books, and the fact that I know she's done several of them. Liz Braswell has done several of these books, and the others are going to probably be just as good. It's exciting. I like being able and visually. We know what we know. We can visually picture Jafar and the genie and everything that we know, and put their faces into this story, and it makes it a whole new whole new thing.
Yeah.
You accidentally read the rest of the book. Don't say anything then.
Yeah, no spoilers. Sparkly Pink.
Yeah, like Stacy, when we left the cliffhanger of the Sultan, I was assuming that he was going to be saved. I mean, that's our first introduction to how dark this book is going to be, because he pushed him over. We're like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then we came back to it 3 or 4 chapters later.
Yeah,
he was laying there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it really did happen. It's not the Aladdin story we thought it was. So then he snipped up carpet. He's injuring people. Razul's dead. Some old man got his head snapped, Exorcist style. It's crazy.
And the whole Razul's dead thing, I think that hit us harder because we know the character in the movie, but he was just a guy chasing Aladdin. But
he did.
Now we knew his old story and everything.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty crazy. Anyway, like these books.
Liking a lot.
Chris and I already said we're both going to buy the next one, which is Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I believe it is.
I can't remember, but hope you all are liking them and enjoying them as well.
So, tomorrow night, D&T is returning Poetry Night.
We are. I forgot about that.
Yep. Saw the thumbnail before the stream. So, hop over there and give them a few snaps for their creativity.
Oh, yeah. My hands hurt. I can't snap right now.
Tina will be live tomorrow at 5:00, she said. Nicole can't wait for Sleeping Beauty. I'm looking forward to that one too.
I'm looking forward to them all. I'm not gonna. I mean, the stories I went through them, and we love all the Disney stuff, but they picked out some good ones to alter the stories too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Oh, nice, Stacy. Stacy, the local bookstore down here by me has them all. I think I'm gonna go. They're all the same exact size and shapes and all that. I think I'm just gonna go get them all. They're only like $7 or $8, $10 a piece, I think. They're I want them because I like the way they look across the thing. There's actually 2 sets I want. There's another book series I'm reading on the side that's about villains as well, but it tells their backstory, which is really cool. But I like the Twisted Tales better. But so the first one in the series is like the Evil Queen, but it tells how she got to the point where she is. Yeah. So that, like her story, how she met the king and this, and so it's really cool. It's pretty neat.
What turned her to begin with?
Yeah, basically like that. Kind of like if they were misunderstood at the beginning. Oh wow, the first 3 are only 1539. Nice.
Wow.
Yes. One's by
Serena Valentino.
Yep, Serena Valentino. So they're on my here. I can show you what one of the covers looks like because they're on my reading list here. I was reading one of them
Nicole's posting the links. Thank you, Nicole. And then Joy S will be live tomorrow night at 8:00. Before I forget,
take a picture of it. So, I didn't get it, did I? Yes, I did. Okay, so here's there's the first book called Fairest of Them All.
Oh, I've seen those.
So these are shorter books. So like you got your normal
Yeah.
size book. They're only like they're smaller.
Yeah.
They're not square, but they're closer to being square.
Yeah.
But it's they're really cool. So
I've seen those. Yeah.
this one's called Fairest of Them All. Again, there's 10 of those, I think. And two of them are on the Kindle right now for free. This is the other one that's on Kindle. Beast.
Yeah.
It's the Beast Within. It's the one about the Beast himself.
I thought so. Sparkly Pinks. Yeah. Angie sent me when we first announced we were doing this. She sent me the picture of those, asking if that was the books.
Yeah, there's the other one, the Beast Within. So those two are on. They all have half of the face of the person and what they're called, but I think there's 10 of those now. So they're all cool too. This is the kind of stuff I like to read, Disney stuff.
Yeah.
There's a Disney book back there I'm reading. There's another one on here, Chris, I highly recommend. It's called Be Our Guest. I don't know. It's for me. It's the art of customer service, the way Disney does things.
Nice.
But it's a free book on here.
I'll check that out.
Perfecting the art of customer service. Anyways, lots of cool stuff.
Nice.
And now it's time to go escape. I got online escape rooms.
Got online escape rooms to do. Tomorrow night, I don't know that we'll be back here tomorrow night with DNT going tomorrow night. So, but we will be back Thursday night. I've already got the stream up for Thursday night. We'll be back to the usual chill night. And I have bought Southern snacks to share and show.
You bought Southern snacks?
Yes. So Sunday night, I was talking some about different snacks that we have down south.
Beaver nuggets.
No.
Oh.
And Tina's like, I feel like we need to see this on stream. You need to do a video about this. And so I went and bought some stuff, and I'm going to show it and share and sample on stream Thursday night. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So we'll be here for that Thursday night, and then yeah. Hope y'all have a good night. Liver mush may be one of the items, Stacy. Yes. So hope y'all have a good night, and tomorrow's Wednesday. We're about halfway through the week. So
are we already?
Already.
Wow.
So first day of November. Wow.
That is crazy.
We're less than 2 months from Christmas now.
That's even crazier. Oh, Wendy, those are nasty.
Yeah.
So nasty.
In South Carolina, that is the state snack of South Carolina.
Are you serious?
Yes, and they're called goobers.
There's goobers in the store. You can go get them their chocolate covered peanuts.
Yeah, they call boiled peanuts.
Very interesting, Christopher.
Anyway, hope y'all have a good night. Take care, sleep well, and hope you have a wonderful day tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you back soon. Love y'all. Bye. Toodles.
High five.